What is up, everybody? We're back again for another fantastic episode. If you've not seen this face, I don't know what you're doing in cold email, because he is the ultimate wizard. He is the cold email wizard. I finally managed to grab him. I'm in awe as well, and starstruck. If you've not done his course, do his course. It's one of the biggest courses on Twitter. It's what everyone does. This is Cold Email Wizard. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter. He's the co-founder of Ascension. Thank you for being on board. Let's just kick off. How are you going?
Yeah, dude, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's crazy how I feel like there was this kind of wave of cold emailers that spawned in like 2020, and I think it came from that course.
You can take a good amount of fault for that, my friend. You can take a good amount of fault for that. That is partly because of you. A good amount is because of you. Sweet, Daniel. Let's jump into it. So the first question I ask everyone is, why do people pay you?
So I feel like it's what I found very interesting is I was under the impression I typically work with people. They're normally at an absolute minimum of $5K a month. They have some clients, they know how to do the actual thing, and it ranges all the way up to people who are like $100K a month. And I was originally under the impression that a lot of people just pay for information, but it turns out that a lot of people just pay for implementation in whatever kind of regard that is. So you might be selling a done for you service, but if you're selling some kind of like done with you or consulting-esque type thing, it is actually insane the degree to which like motivation and like telling people, hey, do this, like click this button, write this precisely, and click the send button. It's actually insane. I didn't realize it would end up being like that, but it actually is.
Okay,
but there's hella information. So I know you got like Nick Abraham has been on here. I don't know if you got Andre on here, but they're all on Client Ascension, and they're like they're actually way better at me than cold email, which is really
well, you're the OG, so we're gonna pick your brain as much as we can. But yeah, I'd love to have Andre soon as well. So cool. Tell me a bit more about Client Ascension, and then we'll sort of jump into your story. I really want to expose the wrong word, but sort of share to the market and the audience how, just a change in your offer and wording when you started your social media agency and Instagram back in the day just changed the game for you. But before we do that, what is Client Ascension? Why do people need to care about it?
Yeah, so if you were to take a distribution of the kinds of things that people buy, there's only three in terms of like B2B, I guess you'd say. Mm-hmm. So imagine like a triangle, and at the bottom you have do it yourself, and that would be something like a course. And you could typically charge the least amount of money for a course, but it is similarly the least logistical complex for you to fulfill. And then you go up higher, it's done with you. So that's like a coaching program, consulting program. It's a little more logistically complex, but you can therefore charge more money. And then at the top, you have done for you. So that would be someone who's running kind of like a lead gen agency. They do cold email on behalf of other people. You could charge the most money for it, and it is the most logistically complex. So I started, which typically you should do, is done for you, and then you go down. So I started with done for you, and then I actually went straight to the bottom, do it yourself, when I made that course. But the entire function of the course was to sign people to the done for you, to get them up to the top. However, I did not realize that on that way, there's a different category of people who go into the done with you segment. It just makes the most logistical complex for some people. So if I were to tell you like what's the reason I made Client Ascension, is because people wanted to buy it, right? And that's
okay.
That's similarly how a lot of people should operate their business segments, where it's like I can give you for instance, say you're on the phone with some prospect and maybe they're not particularly qualified for your done for you service. Maybe you could get them results, maybe not. You're not particularly sure. It's typically a good idea to sell them something on further down the ladder. It just makes more sense, because some people say you're a lead gen agency and the guy doesn't, I don't know, maybe his offer isn't the best or whatever. He would probably get a lot of value from you just teaching him how to do it, and you can similarly just extract some money from the product, like sell something to them. If someone gets on the phone with you, they want to buy something. Everybody wants to put money in and get a return on it. Every single person on the planet.
True. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Cool. That's a nice breakdown. Okay, completely get it. And you're on the money. It's give people what they want and they will buy, right? That 100% breakdown. Awesome. I want to jump to that thing that we kicked off with, which is understanding your IG days. 5 years ago, you started off. You did every course. I know you absorbed Russell Brunson. You watched all the YouTube videos. You've done all the courses, and you decided you did an Instagram social media marketing agency, but you made a tweak in your offering. Let's jump into that, because obviously offers and value is a lot of what today's conversation is going to be about.
Yeah. So if you were to imagine any reason why somebody wants to purchase something, it's because they exist at some current state and they want to arrive at some end state, and you are the gap between the two. So
Okay.
a very big problem some people have when they're selling something is they don't always know the exact end state that a prospect does want to arrive at. And an example of that, Instagram growth agency, which was my first agency that I ran like 5.5 years ago, I was positioning it and making a claim around like, I'm going to show you how to grow on Instagram and make more money. And it was working, it was doing okay. And then looking at other people in the market and what they were doing, their promise was just, I'll get you more followers. And then I'm looking at the kind of people who ended up working with me. Not a lot of them had products or were selling anything. So I just changed the claim. I just removed, I'm going to help you make more money. I removed it from my outreach angles. I removed it from my headline on my site. And I just said, I'm going to get you more followers. And immediately it started working better, like instantaneously. And it's just so strange that you really have to know what exactly people want, because what you think people want isn't always what it is they actually want. Most of the time in B2B, which is like what most people watching this will be, normally it is money, but it could be other things in regards to money. It might be like they're working too much or something like that.
Yeah.
You need to play with the positioning of the offer and actually find out what people want.
Yeah.
And what's actually extremely interesting and very useful, I have found that Chat GPT actually is pretty good at extracting what it is people want if you put their demographic and kind of like a description, like a hyper description of who they are, what they're running, the kind of business it is, how big their team is, how old they are, where they're located. It kind of gives you good stuff.
Okay.
It's really interesting. So I think people watching this should play with it.
100%. ChatGPT is a whole new arena that I want to jump into as a separate segment, but that's really cool. Okay, so I was going to ask you very quickly, how do you systematically find that out? But it looks like AI's fixed that for us. We're into trouble.
And normally
okay, this
what
is
you
great.
could do is like, say you're doing cold emails too. You're always going to make some kind of claim, like I can help you do this. So if you were to take some specific, just you have some say you're using like a 1-sentence cold email where it's like a question, right? So like, hey, name, some relevant personal line. Maybe it could just be a personalized one, or just like stating some relevance where you found them, and just making some claim. It's like, would you be interested in this? And then just testing it, like which one works better. And normally, what I personally like to do is, because I just push traffic in so many different locations, I just test it on my landing page and make a split test and see which one. And that's what I did with Client Ascension, dude. I made hundreds of split tests constantly over and over and over again until you find the one thing that works. And you'll know when you found it because you'll just feel it. It's like an order of magnitude better than everything else. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Love it. So I just want to just very sidestep to everyone. And I told this to Daniel on Twitter. I'm not even making this shit up. It's got one of his tweets that I've always put on the side, and I think this is attribution to what he said, is do so much that it's difficult to not win. Like, you need to be pumping enough volume that the raw mathematics just doesn't make sense for you to not succeed, and you need to get a desirable end outcome. Like, I've crammed that, by the way. It's something I sort of tell myself every day. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but that's generally something I'm like, you need to put in the reps and it will happen. It's just a statistical fact, right?
Yep.
So that's great that you've done that. I want to jump into the next thing, which is you've built arguably the most popular cold emailing course in the market, right? Now, if you had to start from scratch, what are 3 things that you would do to repeat the same success?
Yeah, so this is just an extremely useful like set of advice I'll give to people that if you implement it, it's pretty unreasonable that it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So you're selling something. You make a claim. Just make a claim. Like, I'm going to help you do this.
Yeah.
then reverse the risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you don't get this claim, you'll get your money back, or you're only gonna pay while it works. So that'd be kind of like a performance-based type thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And now to hyperdrive it more, you need social proof. So there's basically three things that make people purchase things from you on the internet or anywhere.
Anyway,
you have to make a claim. I'm going to help you get this. You're going to reverse the risk, and then you're going to provide evidence that you can in fact do it. So there's a subsection of people who are watching this right now who have no evidence.
Yep.
So what you need to do while you don't have evidence is amp up the risk reversal. And what I mean by that is saying something like, you're only going to pay as it's working, so performance basis, or you're only going to pay after it works. Now, what is social proof and evidence works better than risk reversals. So how do you get social proof? This is what I did for Cold Email Mastery. I would every month I would go and email everyone who got it. I said, hey, if you're getting success with this, I will make you a trade. I will get on a free consulting call with you. In exchange for that, I want you to tweet your quantifiable results, specifically quantifiable results. So what I would do is they would tweet their thing. That's all they had to do. Just make a tweet.
Yeah.
I would retweet it 37 times. I would screenshot it and then put it on the landing page. And then I just did this continuously over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's all I did. This is
Yeah, carry on. No, I was gonna say I can vouch for the fact that at one point my entire Twitter was just like your course and people tweeting it. And I was like, how is this guy getting this much? Like, how is he pumping this much?
I hacked the system. That's literally what I did. So the growth of your company is in direct proportion to how much social proof you have. Like, actually, that's actually what it is. Everyone just does what everyone else does, right? So if you were to imagine like you're shopping on Amazon and you need a screwdriver, right? And there's two screwdrivers. One is $12 and one is $10.
Yeah.
But the one that's $12 has 5,000 5-star reviews, and the one that's $10 has 800 reviews, and it's 4.5. Most people they're gonna pay the $2 just for the certainty that something that they don't even know exists could maybe perhaps be wrong with the screwdriver. Even how inconsequential it doesn't matter. It's just worth the extra money. It just is.
Makes sense. Could not agree with you more. I love that your quotes, you're so specific in your quotes, because I'm going to run into that exact same quote, which is you speak about, you're a massive believer in social proof, and you say growth is directly proportional to quantifiable social proof. So I have that written down. So I love that you're as methodic as you say you are. So I want to know, where does social proof come in a context of cold emails? And when we speak about that, how do you start a social proof machine if you're a lead gen agency? Now, we've taken the context of you as a course creator, which makes sense. You've given them a free testimonial. But as a lead gen agency, where does social proof come in? How do I even implement that? Yep, balls in your park.
Yeah, so there's different subsections with which you can inject the social proof. So I'll assume your phone, if you're a lead gen agency, you were probably using cold email to get your leads, right? That makes functional sense. So your front end is the cold email itself, and then kind of the mid funnel is your landing page. So you could do the thing where it's like, P.S. I've worked with this person, and this person, and got them these results, and just inject it very nonchalantly, just to kind of grease it a little bit. Yeah, I'm not some random dude on who's a scammer, because you're default an internet scammer until proven otherwise. So what happens though, in what people really don't understand, is 95% of the people who are interested, who you cold email, who are interested, are gonna, even if you don't have your website and your signature, they're gonna copy your sending domain, and then they're gonna go to your website. And I proved this when I first started my lead gen agency, because I wasn't pushing traffic from anywhere else beyond the cold emails, and I had Google Analytics, and it was getting traffic. So where else would it come from besides the cold emails? People were direct traffic, legit, just redirecting from the secondary domains.
Yeah.
So what happens is there's a lot of guys, they'll be pushing their stuff and they just completely disregard the landing page. It's like that is the sales conversation.
Yeah.
That's what's happening here. So the headline needs to be a claim. The headline is your offer, right? So I will get this for you and you will only pay for performance. Now VSL, all right, reiterate the claim, explain your process, show other people you've done it for, right? And then on the bottom, like just below that, put your social proof right there. Now, a lot of people will get hung up on like, people will say case studies. And they'll be like, oh, well, how do I make a case study? I'm like, just make a screenshot. Like just screenshot, like, look at this. I got all of this. And now let's say the best form of social proof is getting one of your clients on an interview and them straight up first sentence saying, like, you asking them, how much money have you made working with us? Oh, we've made this much. Bam. Now there's going to be situations where they just don't want to do that, or they want to be like a little dark. So what you can do instead is kind of make like an educational training video, right? What I mean by that is how I was able to get this company this many leads in this much time. And you just make a big Google Doc presentation, screenshots of the smart lead AI dashboard. You're saying, look at all this. I did this. Here's the inbox management. And you just go through the process of what you did.
And subtly just put that value. Yeah. Okay.
Here's what's very interesting in that I have Hotjar on my website, so I can see like what people are doing on this site. I know how long you're staying. So on my sales page, I have tons of videos embedded of case studies, just like with other people. I have my VSL, and I think I have like 8 videos embedded on there, and then like it's just a long page. There's just so much you can look at. You can be on the page for like 3 hours. Like you actually can. And now what happens is I go on Hotjar and I look at the recordings, and people do in fact stay on the page for 2 hours. Like that's a thing. People do that. A lot of like the average person will spend like 10 minutes on it because there's just so much stuff to look at and to skim across. And this is the thing with social proof. You need to get everything you can out of all that you've got. And what I mean by that is you have your case study, you got someone results, you inject it in your cold emails, you make a big case study video of it, you make a Google Doc that explains how you do it, you turn it into a sales asset, and you do a comment under this tweet to get it, and then people do that, and now you're just distributing assets on the internet, and you're just aggregating as much human attention as is conceivably possible. You just need to occupy more human bandwidth. Which, if you have one case study, pump it everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Like push it hard. The problem people have in executing that kind of like marketing campaign is they're under the impression that because you are repeating something continuously over and over and over again,
other people are seeing it. Yeah.
You think everyone sees it repeating over and over and over again, but you're not accounting for the fact that like you make one tweet, not your whole audience is going to see it. And you put it over on this platform, you're not cognizant of the fact that there's different people over in that platform. And even if there's one person following you on everything, who cares if they see it 8 times? You're just occupying more mental bandwidth, and it's just going to do nothing besides increase conversions. There's just no situation where it results in you making less money, like ever.
Love it. Just, you need to be aggressive. Love it. Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't agree with more with you on that. I'm a victim of that as well. And I sometimes don't make I'm like, oh shit, I might be pumping it too hard, but you're on the money. Like each time it's a new set of the algorithm. Could not agree with you more. Cool. You're a big believer in offers. A lot of your course was offer based. I remember there's a whole section for it. I've done your course as well. And you've said a good offer can change your business, which is, completely agree with you on that. Now, I want to understand, what's your process of offer experimentation? Like how much money do I spend? How many cold emails do I send before I consider an offer is that? Is there a methodic way for me to systematically arrive to a working offer?
Yeah. So if I were to kind of, what just will absolutely work 100% of the time, and it will just never not work, is that kind of thing I said before. So this is just like a starting point where you should start. You need to make a claim, because there's a lot of people where they'll sell cold email as a service, or they're a lead generation agency, and what they're doing is they're selling cold email.
Yeah.
So if you're selling cold email, you're not selling cold email, you're selling more money in more deals. So it just needs to be positioned like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if your headline is, "Oh, we do AI-based cold email," it's like, bro, nobody cares. It's like you sell. I'm gonna get you $400,000 in new pipeline this year, and you're only gonna pay if I can make it happen. Like, that's so much. No one cares if it's AI. Like, it doesn't matter. So you have to start with making a claim. Specifically, I'm gonna give you this. Like, that's it, right? So you start with that, and now what'll happen is, say you're sending out some emails, and you're getting on the phone with like a couple people, and maybe you're having a bit of a tough time converting people. Like, they just don't want to buy, and you're not sure if it has to do with you not being good at sales, or if your offer isn't good enough. So here's what I tell people to do a lot. Or you're scared of like putting a guarantee because you don't know if you can get that person results. Maybe you're like more of a beginner type and you haven't worked with a tremendous amount of people. This is just the easiest thing I've told people to do. Like, someone got on the phone with you, so be under the assumption that they would prefer to give you money in exchange for a return, right? So if you pitch them some offer, and they're like, "Oh, like I don't know if that will work. I don't know if that will work for us." Simply ask, "Well, what would a perfect situation look like for you? Like, what do you want to buy? I know you have this business, you got this person over here, over here, over here, over here. Like, what would you like to buy instead?" And typically what will happen is they will give you some form by which they want you to execute a service. So let's say that you're a lead gen agency, you're going to do done for you cold email, but you're talking to some guy and he just hired some SDR. He has like 2 closers. He has 2 SDRs, 2 closers. If you don't ask these questions or do a proper discovery process, you're not going to be cognizant of the fact that the actual reason this guy doesn't want to pay you to do done for you cold emails because he just hired an SDR. So what is the function of the SDR, right? Because people have a tough time like considering sunk costs, right? And no one wants to just go fire the SDR or something like that. So it might be that the guy would say, "Hey, could you actually just set this up for us and you kind of just train my SDR how to do it?"
You picked up an offer right there in an angle. Yep.
You just got an offer.
Makes
Now you can backtrack this. Oh, so if someone has a sales team, and what would be a good indication if someone has a sales team? Oh, a sales manager exists in the organization. That's pretty good indication that they have SDRs. So now you start prospecting for people, specifically to sales managers or VP of sales in an organization, and you start pushing an offer like that. You see what I mean? And you come up with these kind of like extremely relevant angles where it would morph from, "Hey, I can get you more leads," to, "Hey, I can help your SDRs get more leads." It's completely different. It's a completely different angling, and it appeals to a completely different person. So you have to be able to extract these things.
Makes sense. Love that. So you've literally gone from someone saying no, figuring out a question, breaking it down, creating an offer, then creating a sub offer, and then seeing which one works. Love it. Methodic, straightforward. Makes perfect sense. Just as a note, I know we're running on a time cycle. How much more time do you have?
I'm good, bro. We can keep going.
Okay, cool. We can keep going. Okay, awesome. Sweet. I read this in a previous, I think, podcast interview you mentioned or I think it was website, where you said saying statements like 32% increase in leads is being poor with social proof. And instead you provided a solution as to how to do that. Now, I want you to tell me what is that solution and how do you suggest people to turn it around? Because I know so many people with their cold emails, because we send so many, people will say, "Yeah, I can increase your revenue by 32% increase in conversion rate, 40% increase, whatever." But you've clearly got a better way. What is that?
Yeah, so you have to think for people. And what I mean by that is every time you write something on a page or you're making some kind of claim, whatever, you need to put it into a so what. Okay, so someone gets 32% increase in leads. Okay, well, what do they start at? Well, they started at
Okay,
I
sure.
don't know. They were making a 100,000 a month. Now they got 32% more leads, which assume also sales velocity went up 32% as well. So
Yeah.
now they're at 132,000. How fast
Yeah.
did you do that? Oh, I did that in 47 days. Okay, so it's kind of a better angling to put an extra $32,000 generated in 47 days. It just makes more sense. So everything you write, you just have to go to the next level deeper. You have to, every time you write something, you have to literally say, so what? And this is kind of like a copywriting direct response thing, but you actually have to think for people. And it is like, you hear this thing a lot where it's right at a fifth grade level and making it extremely easy to understand. And that doesn't really have to do with the fact that like people are dumb. It just has more so to do with the fact that you just made it hyper easy to understand. Where it's like if the third and to visualize things as well. Where it's like if you say 32% increase in leads, show a screenshot of this is what the calendar looked like before. Now this is what it looks like. Now you have a more visualization. It's like a tangibility. And this is very interesting too. If you can post a screenshot of like a $400,000 month or a $500,000 month, and you'll get a lot of engagement. But if you post a picture of a Lamborghini, it will get more.
Yeah.
Right. So it goes back into that concept of so what.
Visualization.
So it's like, okay, $500,000 in a month. So what?
So what?
Lamborghini. You see how this works? You have to go deeper and deeper and deeper and so what? Just constantly.
Makes sense. I believe it's a derivative of this other thing. I think it's a Japanese phrase. It's the 5 whys. You keep asking why 5 times until you work out the true emotional reasoning behind a claim, and that is the actual reason why some firm. That makes so much sense. Cool. So 32% increase in sales leads to this. This is why you will achieve it. Okay. Cool. That's a good learning lesson for me as well. So there are a couple more questions before we call this a day, and I guess one of the things is. Do you have any? Everyone has very stark opinions on this. Do you have any opinions on performance-based models when you're doing anything as a business cold email? You've mentioned this a bit already. Versus a prepaid model. Where do you stand on this right now? As let's take 2 scenarios: someone starting and someone established.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, and this is what typically happens: is a beginner will start on a performance basis, and then they'll want to gather enough social proof to be able to go to a retainer basis. And then as you become extremely, extremely more competent over time, you'll want to switch back to a performance basis because you're so good. So it's like this
okay, right? Yeah, okay.
It's this full scale cycle. Like it just constantly goes over and over and over again because it's like, I mean, there might be people watching this. They got a couple clients and they're on a performance basis and they're making some good money. And like maybe you'll at some point gather enough social proof to warrant being able to charge a retainer and get people to actually convert on it based on your proof. But then one day you'll be at like 80,000 a month or 100,000 a month. And you're like, wow, if I want to get to 200,000 a month, I need like literally double the amount of clients. Like, well, what if I just like worked with this one business who has a really good offer and I can just like do a performance basis? That's exactly what's going to happen. It's just this full scale cycle.
Full circle. Fair enough. I did not think of that. You're absolutely correct because you're so good at your job. You're like, yeah, I'll just make more money just doing that instead. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Okay,
it's
cool.
So true, bro. It's so now what I mean, ultimately what you can do is at a certain point, like you'll have sufficient enough proof to have like some kind of like base retainer type thing plus performance. And that's kind of typically how it'll work. So it does actually get better over and over time, but you will at some point want to go back to
Makes sense. Makes sense. I want to run a bit into client Ascension and sort of drive a bit of your perspective as someone who's a coach almost, right? Forgive me if I'm getting it, the terms wrong, but you've got a lot of successful customers. Your social proof is obviously through the roof. And a lot of your customers have built multi-million-dollar companies. What I want to understand is a lot of people watching this are pretty much synonymous with your audience and your customers as well. So what do you think has made the ones successful achieve the success? Maybe 3 to 4 traits, 2 to 3 traits. What do you think made them do that? Is it a process? Is it a system? What makes them succeed? Because you clearly have some winners and you might have some people who are not winning as much as winners.
Yeah, so I could I guess I could put it in like, there's kind of like 2 phases with which someone would elapse through inside Client Ascension. It's like, okay, we're gonna start with cold outreach. So we're going to write your scripts for you. We're going to give you a bunch of leads, and we're going to give you some software to do it. And that's kind of just like, and then some housekeeping stuff where it's like, all right, we're going to make a claim. We're going to put a risk reversal. We're going to gather all the social proof you conceivably have, right? And now you start getting some people coming through. You sign some people, and like very large importance on creating like basically a mechanized system to delivering your fulfillment and being able to functionally do it with many people. So that's a huge aspect of it. But then the second half, and what I kind of like to hang around with, that's kind of where I hang, is on the back end of that. Like once you start to do some really good stuff, Andre and Nick Abraham are kind of on that front end side. But once you start going up there, I am kind of the bit of the scaler guy, where it's like, all right, well, it's time to start making some YouTube videos, and like, here's what you do on YouTube to do that, and then you're going to put it over here on Twitter, and then you're going to collect this social proof, and you're going to pump that over here and here and here. And it's like, oh, we've identified this kind of offer where it's like, here's how you inject that offer in here and put people here. And similar to how we show people how to make a mechanized structure to delivering people, it's exactly what we've done, where it's kind of the same. It's just a mechanized structure. It's like, okay, spin up some outbound campaigns, gather some social proof, and then start distributing an absolute obscene amount of content on the internet. And that's literally all you do.
Love it. I want to finish this as soon as I can, and then just go nuts in terms of just scheduling a shit ton of content. Like, I'm gonna hammer it. Love it. Okay, makes sense. So clear thing. It's the more people know, the more people buy. So that's a massive focus. 100%. Last two questions. I want to pick your brain for as long as I can, but I know you're a busy guy. Last two questions I have is, you've mentioned that it's impossible to not get wealthy if you can figure out how to keep your clients, and I could not agree with you more. Right? A lot of people focus on acquisition, but retention is a massive revenue driver. So what strategies do you suggest to increase LTV, or lifetime value, of your customers as an agency? With SaaS businesses, there's a million strategies, but as an agency, what are some ways you can increase LTV or even average order value?
Yeah, so I've talked about this before, where I always put a very heavy emphasis on like getting results for them, but there's like an unspoken thing that you can't really measure, and it is the experience of it. And what I mean by experience is a system by which you will be telling people what is happening. People want transparency, that you are actively trying to improve continuously over and over and over again, right? So imagine a situation like this. If let's say you sign a client and you charge them $5,000 per month, and you're able to consistently generate them $35,000 per month. So make a $30,000 profit every single month. What will happen is they will start to associate that number as just like, oh, people just know how to do that. They'll just think, oh, like agencies know how to, lead gen agencies know how to do that. That'll just be their concept of it. What will happen is, if another lead gen agency comes along and they say, hey, I can make you 60 a month. Like, we just got to do this super special AI thing over here, and this and this and this, and all we got to do is this. They are able to be scalped. They are. However, if they like you, they cannot be scalped.
Interesting. Okay.
Because people don't sue doctors they like. Ever.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
It's so true. They won't leave you just because they like you. It's like, and what that means, the way you facilitate that, okay, on every Monday, it's like, here's the plan for this week. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to attack it this week. We're going to do this. Okay, Friday, here's what we did this week. These are the results we saw, yada, yada. Here's the plan for next week. Reiterate the plan again on Monday. Here's what we're doing this week. We're going to try this, right? And then you also follow them on Twitter and LinkedIn, and you comment on their stuff. And then every like 2 weeks, you ask them, how's life? How are you feeling? How's the business going? And they like you.
That's it.
And they can't be scalped.
I love it. So you've taken the internet and you made it human. In the end, it comes back to the same adage, right? Is business is people. In the end, people work with good people. And I love that. Okay. Interesting. So that's the difference. It's the person behind the wheels. Okay. Wouldn't have thought that. That's a good one. Cool. Last question for you. You've sort of answered this in its own way, but I sort of want to understand as someone yourself who's probably sending thousands of emails right now, or doing a lot. Okay, can you jump into a bit about actually, you know what? I want to skip that. I want to jump to another question because this is a cool one. You spoke about sentience and cold emailing. I found that very interesting, right? Sentience and cold emailing, and writing for one and scaling to 1,000. You've obviously explained that quite well in the previous episode. I'll link that somewhere here. But can you share a bit more about your process? To sort of extend this question, I remember in your course you distinctly mentioned one of the most drastically mind-numbing, mind-changing things you did was just read your cold email out loud, and that made you realize how robotic it sounded versus treat cold emails as you meeting someone in like an event. Will you sell to them saying, hey, first name, I saw you on LinkedIn? It's really, really weird, but if you write it like you speak it, it's a lot more better. So yeah, speak to me about this sentient emotion 1 to 1,000. I'd love to learn more.
So the way I kind of came across that was because when I was running that first agency, I didn't even know sending tools existed. I just did. Yeah. So like I'd just be on Instagram, like clicking the email button, copying it, and then like putting it in a Google Sheet, and then just like putting a script there and like sending it to an individual person. So my concept evolved. My concept of outbound evolved from the angle of I'm sending this to an individual person. Now, what a lot of people do is like their first foray into cold email has a lot to do with like
scale and
people
volume.
Scale, So what they're doing is they're writing a message to 1,000 as opposed to writing a message to one and trying to extract it to 1,000, right? And what I have found extremely useful lately as just like the best facilitation of people to get better results with it is focusing more on relevance and not like, oh, I'll just make a personalized first line so the cold email is personalized. Like relevance. And what I mean by that is you're selling some kind of Shopify app or something like that. So it might be a good idea to scrape Shopify support's followers on Twitter and send them an email, right? Don't you think that would make sense? Like, hey, sorry you were following Shopify support on Twitter. So you're probably running it. You're probably running an e-com brand if you're following Shopify support on Twitter. Like, that kind of makes sense.
Yep. Cool. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And in all honesty, I have a lot of people messaging me saying, hey, I know you follow Cold Email Wizard, XYZ. So I'm like, yep. Okay. Perfect baseline. Yep. Awesome. Okay. So sentience makes a lot of sense. In the end, stay have an emotion behind it. Social proof, aggressive scale, ensure that when you get any single case study, you hammer it out for the rest of the world. That's your summary, audience. If you've not watched it, you've come over here, go back, watch the whole damn thing. This is fantastic. Daniel, for those who want to get in touch with you or want to find you, obviously there's your Twitter, but is there anywhere else where you're active or growing a following where people can engage with you?
Yeah, YouTube, Daniel Fazio.
Yeah, I've been going hard on YouTube. 7,000 subscribers right now as you're watching this video. Hopefully we'll keep, we'll get that pump up with this coming out. Well, check out his YouTube. It's actually really good content. That's where I found a lot of the stuff, the material I had for this. So, Daniel, thank you so much. Cold Email Wizard, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Have a great day, mate. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.